Alright, so let's get into the sound design process. Now the first concept that I'm going to show you in this section of the course is the idea of layering sound effects. When you get into sound design and you're developing the sound or the soundscape of a certain scene that you're working on, typically you're not going to be working with just one sound or two sounds. It's going to be a combination of sounds that you're going to layer together in order to create the ambience, to create the environment. And so when you're thinking about sound design, don't be thinking about just, well, what's the sound effect that I can use to put on this scene? Be thinking about everything that's happening in the scene and layer those sound effects in order to create a very natural sounding soundscape for the scene. So for example, any environment that you're shooting, be thinking about the background, or the ambience level. Okay, so what is the ambience of the scene? If somebody's outside, maybe it's a little bit of light wind or some birds chirping. If they're indoors, like what is the room tone? Okay, rooms have a tone. There's a sound that rooms make. And then be thinking about background, foreground. So what's happening in the background, behind my talent. And then on top of that is, what is my talent doing? What sounds are they making as they're doing it? This is something to be thinking about, not just in the sound design process in editing, but also like while you're shooting. When you're on set and you're capturing audio, if you are capturing the audio, be thinking about, what different sound effects do I need to grab so that I can layer them together in post to get a very full, rich, natural sounding soundscape. So let's go into how to do that now. So I've got a project pulled up here in Premiere. And this first scene from this project is we've got our talent kind of walking around in the city. He's up on top of a building overlooking the city going on here, the skyscrapers. We've got a few shots of him doing that along with the music. Let me just play this so you can see how it goes. Okay, so that's the first scene of this video. Now, we've got a little space here at the beginning of the video. That's because we're actually going to start with the sound. It's going to come in first before the video and the music come in. But this is kind of what we're working with. So we're going to, for these first two shots, we're going to do a little bit of sound layering to create the sound environment for this scene. Now, naturally, we're going to think about ambience first. Okay, so what is the ambient level? What is the tone of the room? Now, he's outside, he's in the city, so there's naturally going to be probably traffic sounds. There's going to be maybe some birds. There's going to be, whatever it is, we need to create that level first. So I'm going to start with a sound effect here. All these sound effects I got from a sound library, so these weren't actually recorded on set. So we're pulling from a library here. But we're going to start with one of these traffic sound effects. So let me look at these and see what they are. I think we're going to start with this one, so let's see what that is. Yeah, so we've got some traffic, we've got some horns honking, that kind of thing. That's what we're going to start with. It's just basically like city sound, right? So let me grab a section of this. Yeah, so probably this first part is good. So let's just grab a section of that and then we'll go ahead and pull it down into our timeline. Now, to create a new audio track, if you're out of audio tracks, all you have to do is drag your audio down here below the other audio tracks and it'll automatically create a new one. And that's pretty standard across most software. Okay, so that is going to be our ambient tone and that is going to last throughout the entire scene. So we've got two clips here in this scene, so it's going to go until there. So let me zoom in here and just place the end of it. That's going to be the end of our clip right there, okay? And we'll probably do some stuff to kind of fade it out. We'll figure that out in a second. Now, if we were to come back to this scene later, I would take this clip and then, continue it in another part of the video, right? So that's just going to be our ambient tone. We're going to start with that. Let's see how that sounds. Okay, sounds great. Okay, so we've got that sound in. We're going to go ahead and put a little fade on the beginning of it because we want this to kind of slowly fade in at the beginning, and that is about where we want it. Okay, it might be a little bit too loud since we don't want it to be louder than the music, so we can bring the volume of that down a little bit, just kind of get it where we want. Yeah, and then we'll do another fade here at the end and just kind of let it fade into the next clip. Okay, perfect. So that's going to be our tone, our ambient level. Then next, we're going to add something on top of that. So on top of, just traffic sounds and maybe some horns in the background, we've got this clip, which is going to give us a siren effect. So like an ambulance going by. This makes sense for this video because this video is actually about his mom who suffered from cancer. And so there's kind of some, other elements going on there as far as the storytelling goes, but we're kind of just pushing that idea. We're thinking about like, what's the ambient level? Okay, now what's the background? Like what other sounds are happening on top of the ambient? And that is a siren. So let's see how this sounds. Okay, so obviously way too loud. So we'll just kind of make that quieter because we want it to just kind of barely sit on top of the ambient. Okay, so that's sounding pretty good. We've got that layer happening there. And then on top of that, now that we've got the ambient, we've got the background, now we want to think about our talent. What's our talent doing? Well, he's walking, so there would naturally be some footsteps, right? So we're going to take one of these footstep sounds that I have here. I believe it's this one. And I'm just going to grab this and throw it in here as soon as we can see him walking. So his first step is about right there. I'm going to take this sound and find those footsteps and try to line them up. Now, this is a tricky thing about working with libraries is the footsteps don't line up perfectly, so we have to do some adjusting here to get them to line up. Okay, and they're actually pretty close. So it starts to kind of starts to get off right about there. Okay, so we might need to cut this clip real quick and just kind of shift it over a little bit. Anyway, I'm not going to take the time to make that perfect right now, but you get the idea. Okay, we'd want to line those up so that the footsteps match. And then really, like with a sound effect like this, we just want to bring it way down. Again, because from a sound library, it sounds like boots on a wood floor, where this is like tennis shoes on a concrete floor. So it's not really perfect, which is why recording your own sounds is always a better idea. But in this situation, this is what we have. And we'll talk later in another video about how to affect this and to make it sound better. But for right now, we're just going to turn the volume down so that it's not as noticeable. Let's see how that sounds. Okay, that way it's just a really, really subtle sound effect. And just kind of fills out that soundscape. So that's what we got so far. Let's go ahead and play it back. Okay, cool. So there you go. There's a quick video on how to layer sounds. Now, obviously, we're just doing the first couple of clips from this video. What I would do at this point is I would go through the rest of the video and keep doing the same thing. So, for example, we've got a shot of him on his bike out in nature. So I would transition from the traffic noise into an ambient, like quieter sound with maybe some wind or some crickets chirping, that kind of thing. Wind noise on top of that. Start putting together the layers of sounds that would be happening in this environment, okay, because it's a totally different place. And then you go through the entire video doing the exact same thing. So always be thinking about how you're layering sounds. Download the sound effects, or if you recorded it, on set, then you're good to go. But take those sound effects and layer them together so that you create a really full soundscape and that everything sounds natural and makes your edit just all that much better.